You could feel the mood change the second the ball left the punter's foot. Not because the play was smart or cowardly, but because the stadium and the team both knew what that choice meant in the moment. 2 minutes left, down 3, and Mike Tomlin sent the punt team onto Soldier Field. It set up a late, frantic drive with no timeouts and a sense that every inch now mattered more than it had all afternoon. It almost worked. It didn't. The Bears walked away 31-28, and by the time the lights went dark, the loss felt bigger than one scoreboard. Rotors. This game looked at times like the season the Steelers have been living, flashes of grit and a lot of little failures stitched together. Mason Rudolph managed the offense well enough. 24 of 31 for 171 yards, a touchdown and an interception, but he didn't get the rhythm you need when the margin is that slim. The Bears, Caleb Williams just kept finding seams when it mattered, finishing with 3 touchdowns and the kind of pocket presence that closes games. The final 3-point gap doesn't tell the full story. It was a messy chess match where special teams, clock management, and a handful of missed plays decided the narrative. ESPN.com and then there's the damage report, the part of the story that will outlast hot takes and Twitter threads. Mike Tomlin listed 3 players who left the game hurting. DK Metcalf tweaked an ankle but returned briefly. Cornerback Joey Porter Jr. exited with a hip flexor and didn't come back. And left tackle Broderick Jones suffered stingers and will need further evaluation. Those aren't little knocks. That trio touches 3 critical layers of a roster: explosive playmaking, cornerback depth, and protection up front. If even one becomes a longer-term absence, what looked like a single loss today could turn into a structural problem for weeks. Behind the steel curtain. You can parse the moment where the momentum shifted. DJ Moore's second touchdown, which carved a seam that should have been closed. There were also 2 dropped interceptions that would have swung the afternoon, and coaching choices that left fans asking whether the team was playing to win or playing not to lose. Tomlin's punt decision is the lightning rod, but the full failure was systemic. The offense couldn't manufacture steady drives in crunch time, coverage responsibilities got fuzzy, and the pass rush didn't find a consistent answer for Williams' pocket movement. When your margin for error is razor thin, every small mistake becomes a headline. Essentially Sports, let's talk about the punt for a second because people will talk about it for a while. The theory behind it: preserve timeouts, trust the defense, avoid giving your opponent a short field, is defensible mathematically. In practice, it demands near-perfect execution from the defense, and it hands the offense an almost impossible chore. Move from your own 20 to field goal range with 1:28 on the clock and no stops. The defense nearly delivered, a quick 3-and-out, but 2 weird, costly moments followed. A fake injury on a punt that forced the Steelers to burn their final timeout, and a hurried, clock-sapped drive that ran out of space and option. The decision didn't lose the game on its own, but it stacked the deck against a recovery that already had long odds. Or Becht. SteelersDepot.com. And now the practical ugly fallout. Losing Joey Porter Jr. to a hip flexor is especially worrying. Cornerback depth matters in a division where the Ravens and Bengals can throw multiple bodies at receivers and create mismatches. If Porter misses time, Pittsburgh will lean on veterans whose legs and seams have been tested already this season. Broderick Jones having stingers is, by its nature, a wait-and-see item. An offensive line that can't be reliably patched leaves quarterbacks exposed. Aaron Rodgers is already nursing a wrist issue, and Mason Rudolph can only do so much when the clock compresses and the pocket collapses. DK Metcalf's ankle is the cherry on top of this headache. He's the vertical threat who can clear space and change coverage calls, and even a short-term limitation will make the offense look more pedestrian. Steelers now. There's a broader truth that sits under all this. The Steelers have been surviving on opportunistic, dramatic moments. Turnovers, return for scores, timely defensive plays, while the underlying metrics, third down offense, pass protection efficiency, consistent defensive coverage, have often read worse. That strategy can win you some games. It cannot reliably win you a division or a deep playoff run. The Bears exploited the bones of Pittsburgh's team plan on Sunday. When you ask your defense to bail you out and then you lose pieces from that very defense, the margin for error vanishes. That's not drama. That's math. PFF. This is also a moment about identity. Mike Tomlin has long been the archetype of steady, disciplined coaching. Trust the system, trust the defense, don't chase reckless aggression. Fans are increasingly asking whether that philosophy needs a tweak when your offense is struggling to score consistently and injuries bite into the depth chart. Are you conservative because you believe in the process, or are you conservative because the alternatives are worse? That's a conversation that won't be settled by a single loss, but it will shape the tone of every preseason adjustment and in-season gamble the Steelers make from here on out. Essentially sports. There are immediate, practical things to watch this week. Medical updates on Porter, Jones, and Metcalf will determine how the staff approaches this short turnaround. Play calling adjustments that put the offense in simpler reads, quicker passes, and more predictable run fits might buy time and reduce sack risk. Personnel shifts, potentially inserting veterans, mixing nickel packages differently, or designing protections that keep the quarterback upright, will define whether this team limps through December or finds a way to patch the holes and keep fighting. The AFC North is not forgiving. Baltimore and Cincinnati are circling. Time won't pause for any one diagnosis, Reuters Fly-Nerd says. But let's keep the human picture in focus, because it's easy to lose that in hot takes. Players are exhausted. Coaches are second-guessing themselves in real time, and a fan base that wants a run feels betrayed when a single choice feels like an abdication. The hard thing about coaching is not being judged by percentages, but by results. The hard thing about playing is having to go into the same movie, the same 60 minutes of pain and possibility, over and over, knowing one small misstep can erase hours of grit. Tomlin, Rudolph, Watt, the offensive linemen, the secondary, all of them will return to practice with the same ledger. Film notes, soreness, a shared hunger to fix what broke. Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're a Steelers fan, what do you hold on to and what do you worry about? Hold on to the fact that this team still fights. They're not an embarrassment. They're a complicated, worn group with some teeth. Worry about the depth and the injuries and whether the front office has the pieces to survive a run of attrition. The next few days, the x-rays, the MRI reads, the practice reports will tell you which storyline becomes reality, a temporary scare or a season-changing ripple. Behind the steel curtain, here's the image that will stick: a squad that sent the punt team onto the field with 2 minutes left, trusting a defense that had to scramble and a suddenly hobbled offense to do the impossible. It's the kind of choice that becomes a teaching moment, a headline, and, depending on the weeks ahead, either a correct call that looked ugly or a turning point you wish you could rewind. Football rewards answers more than questions. Now the Steelers have to provide some, and if they don't, this loss will be remembered not just for the final score, but for the decisions and injuries that made everything harder than it needed to be. Reuters. Last line you'll remember: the scoreboard reads the score, but the body count from the locker room tells the story of how the season really feels. The Steelers walked out of Soldier Field with 28 points and a long list of questions, and the rest of the league just got a little clearer picture of what beating them will look like. ESPN.com. You can lose a game and still walk away feeling like you got something salvaged. That was not the vibe in Chicago. The Pittsburgh Steelers left Soldier Field with a 3-point loss, a bruised record, and an injury list that turns a bad afternoon into a potentially ugly stretch. The scoreboard read 31-28, but the real damage happened on the sideline and in the medical tent. 3 starters limped off the field or didn't finish the game. DK. Metcalf was checked for an ankle but returned. Cornerback Joey Porter Jr. left with a hip flexor and did not return. And starting left tackle Broderick Jones exited with stingers. Those are not small bumps. That's a hit to identity. Porter's absence creates instant stress in the secondary. Broderick Jones walking off late in a game puts your blind side, your entire pass protection plan, at risk. And a limited DK Metcalf, even if he came back, changes the way the offense can attack downfield. Context matters. This was already a Steelers team operating without Aaron Rodgers, the veteran quarterback who got dinged earlier and sat out this matchup. Mason Rudolph engineered a gutsy comeback drive and gave his team a real shot. But when the physical toll hits your best players, execution becomes a guessing game. 2 dropped interceptions that would have altered the scoreboard didn't help, but those are fixable habits compared to the structural problem of losing key personnel. Think about the ripple effect. Joey Porter Jr. is a difference maker on the boundary. When he's out, the defense turns to rotation, to backups who must play faster mentally and cleaner technically. That's a simple math problem. Upgrade in the talent gap equals more contested catches, fewer tight coverage stops, and an offense that can exploit matchups. Broderick Jones's stinger, even if it's temporary, forces a shuffle on the offensive line.